Thank you for being with us today. You knew Dan when you were at Harvard and you worked with him afterwards. Can you tell us about that? What year was this that you worked with him?
Dan lived at school and I was a commuter, and we didn't have much in contact. We did meet in our sophomore year when we both joined the Harvard fund, the class of 1944 fund. And as you know, Dan is the one that started the class of 1944 War Memorial Fund a year later,
Right,
or right after the war, I should say.
right.
I knew him all those years, but we both went in the service. We both went into the Air Corps. I lost track of him for several years. And I noticed in reading some notes that we both graduated. We had one semester to finish, and we did that in the spring of 1946. We graduated together, but I didn't see Dan at commencement. And I didn't see him till a year later. When I was helping in my father had passed away, and my mother was running a cigar factory and store, and I was helping out. So I was in the store. Dan in 1947 was now teaching at Harvard Business School. And he was also working in the Boston Post, the newspaper, which was a morning.
And your cigar factory was on Washington Street.
On Washington Street, yes. It was called Newspaper Row.
Yes.
And if you don't know, it got its name because the Boston Globe was on one side of the street, the Boston Post was on the other side, the Boston Transcript was on the same street down a block, and the Herald American was around the corner.
Wow.
So the Boston papers were located in one area of Lower Washington Street towards Scully Square, towards the North Station.
Yep.
So he was working there, and he came into the store one day and, "Hi, Burt, hi." And I like, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Dan." "Oh, God, Dan, nice to see you," blah, 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 about the war and so forth. And he said, "Listen, we're Bostonians. We know what's going on around here. How would you like to run the first reunion?" "All right, sure, I'll be glad to do it. What do I do?" And then he explained to me how that reunion should be run. In those days, there used to be a parade in costume from Harvard Square down to the athletic facilities. And there was a Harvard-Yale baseball game in the afternoon. And then after that, we'd go back to one of the houses for dinner, for cocktails and dinner for the evening. So my job was to get that established and go down. And then the next day would be commencement. That was on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And commencement, Harvard had an open lunch for all the graduates. And we'd meet there, but we also had a tent. And in that tent, we'd meet, instead of eating with everybody ate, we ate in the tent as a class.
Okay. Let me interrupt you for a minute, Burt. That orange thing is coming up again. Put down your hand.
Put down my hand?
Well, whatever this thing is that keeps coming up. There we go. Okay. Go ahead.
So Dan was already treasurer, and he was already on the board of the class, the executive board. So he would come and he'd meet the guys when they came into the reunion and chat with everybody, and was sort of, even though I was chair, he was master of ceremonies, if you want to call that. And because of his personality, it was so warm and so outward to make everybody feel friendly and to make everyone be happy to come back to see his classmates, some of whom we never knew because of the war.
Right.
That most everybody deferred to him and he would give remarks to the guys and welcome us back to Cambridge and tell us what's going on around the school and so forth.
Ah,
Uh,
yeah.
And that took place ever since that first year when I was involved with the reunion. This is the format that we use.
Hold on. Stop for a minute, Steve. Burt, something's happened with your sound. There we go. Now try it now. Okay, now speak.
All right, what did you get? How did you, I was talking about Dan's personality as being
Right,
a very,
that was great because you didn't talk about that on our phone call. So that was a good feeling. So he was a leader even when young. He was still.
and how, well, to prove that he was a leader, he was interested in writing, and he joined the Harvard Crimson, the Harvard newspaper.
Yeah,
In a freshman year, freshmen could join.
right.
And by the time he was a senior, he was president of the Harvard Crimson, an executive editor.
Wow.
And he worked very closely with another classmate of ours who was in the publishing business as a profession. There's a fellow by the name of Robert Moskin, Moskin. They
Mhm.
became long, fast friends, and they would see each other. Bob lived in New York City. He would come to all the reunions, and Dan, I would say almost once every year, would take a trip to New York and go out with Bob and his wife. And in those days, this was before Dan was divorced. And but even then, they continued their friendship right to the end.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, talk about friendships right to the end. You had a marvelous compliment given to you when Dan was dying. You told me about it the other day, that the night before he died, he called you.
Yes.
You want to tell about that?
Well, we had spoken about 2 days before, because at this time of our lives, we were speaking a minimum of once a week and sometimes twice a week. And we tried to get to see each other. When I was mobile and I could drive, then I would drive to Cambridge, and we would have dinner at the Chateau, which was the restaurant. You would know that.
Yeah.
They have the place out on Route 9. They also have one in the square, off the
Right.
square, Harvard
Right.
Square, back of the square in Watertown. So he and Dan and I and Ben Wright would meet. The three of us would meet, and we'd chat, and then we'd have a meeting. And the reason we were able to do that, unfortunately, is that we were the local people. And after Jerry Preston died, who was the treasurer, we asked Ben to become treasurer, and he accepted. So Dan was there in his capacity as secretary. So we had spoken a couple of days, and I said, "How are things going?" As well, there's something wrong with my leg. It's not as good as it should be, and I'm going to see the doctor. And let's say this was Tuesday. I'm going to see the doctor Thursday, when it was. So I said, "Okay, I'll speak to you on Friday. I'll speak to you next week." And we left it like that. And I didn't. Then suddenly the phone rang at 11:15 Thursday night. And I thought, oh, I ran over to it. Hello, Burt. Yeah, Dan. Hi. I'm in, what's the name? Oh, the one.
Hospice.
Yeah, but he said, I came over to the hospital, the one in, what's the hospital in Cambridge?
St. Elizabeth's?
No,
Mount
the
Auburn.
one, Mount
Mount
Auburn. Yeah, that's right. He said, I came over to Mount Auburn and I just got in the hospice. I said, what? And he said, I'm in hospice and I can't talk now. Here's my number. Call me tomorrow. I said, okay. And that was the end. On Friday, I called and I couldn't get through. And then I got a call later telling me that he had passed away on Friday. So I really never knew the details. But he said to me, his words were, I'm calling you because I'm dying and I don't want you to read about it. I want to tell you. Well, Ashley, you know, at my age, I shouldn't be crying, but tears came to my eyes when I heard that. And Ruth literally cried when she heard it.
Oh, yeah.
That someone in his state would take the time to make a telephone call or telephone calls to people and give them that message. You can't imagine
Yes.
the feeling. And that has stayed with me. And believe me, my dear, I miss the conversations with him because we spoke about everything.
Uh-huh.
We were both from the Democrats, so we could commiserate with each other or discuss. Ruth was as ardent talker when it came to this type of thing. She loved to get into politics and so forth. And those are the pleasures that we had when we go out to lunch, because many times she would join us, and Mary Preston would join us. Have you spoken with Mary Preston?
Mhm. I'm going to.
Okay. And Mary could tell you a lot more because she was in Cambridge and she was at work with Dan in the office. She was our coordinator on the fund.
Ah.
But that was probably the most touching moment of my life.
Yeah. I imagine.
When that call came, it was the most surprising.
Yeah.
And believe me, the content was a shocker. And but now let me just give you a quick update on who Ben Wright was, so you know.
Well, I might confuse the issue because this is all going to be edited down and that might confuse, and his name has not come up.
Oh, okay.
All
right. I thought you might want to know how come he joined us for lunch if the three of us were now.
But I figured he was Harvard also.
Yeah, he was Harvard. He was also an Olympic skater. He and his wife were Olympic skaters in the Boston Skating Club. Mm-hmm. And he ended up as a judge with the Boston Skating Club and in the Olympics.
Oh, exciting.
And he lived there, and she died before any of us. So he was alone. And when the opening came up for the treasurer after Jerry Preston died, Dan and I said, no, hey, why not Ben? He's with us, and the three of us can be we talk to each other, we have lunch together, and we can run the class. And because you're secretary, you're running the class, and we're there to help you. We thought it was a good idea. At that point, I was the only one who could sign the checks because Jerry Preston was. Yeah. But then when Ben came in, he signed the checks, and I was the third person on the Citizens Bank to be able to sign checks for the class. And that's what we're talking about now, that I'm alone. We're going to try to turn that over to the school or something. Yeah, I bet you do. Harvard's going to miss the three of you. You must have had a wonderful time, the triumvirate. Well, we did. And it was for many years. It happened, after the war, because each of us got involved with the class. Right. And we got involved with our fellow classmates. Mm-hmm. And Dan, took it upon himself. All of a sudden, he said to me, I'm going to write an article or a booklet twice a year on the class and what's going on at Harvard. Yeah. And there's a lot going on. We have that in the magazine. Oh, no, he said, this is going to be for the class, and we're going to call it Encore 44. And he wrote that every spring and every summer for about 15 years. Oh, that's great. He opened the booklet, it was about 6 pages, And he opened the booklet with the tidbits around the square, tidbits about the class. He wrote a hell of 2 pages on Larry Boco when he came in the last edition. And he informed our classmates to get them up to date, to keep interest in the class, so we could raise money for the class and we could get people to come to our reunions. And Ben got involved as treasurer, and I was involved because of reunions. And like Dan, I used to write articles periodically to get people to get their interest in coming back to the class reunions.
That's wonderful. Harvard.
And the biggest thrill, let me just give you one major point, then I'm done. I'll stop talking. The major thrill that I got out of our relationship was the day he told me that he was going to receive the Harvard Medal.
Oh.
Because people who received the Harvard Medal from the Alumni Association were people who worked for the school on the top levels of giving or other projects on the buildings and so forth. Harvard had never recognized the person who put his butt out and put his hard work into what he said, working for the class. Mm-hmm. This man spent 75 years as secretary of this class. He spent many years, he was also president of the Secretaries and Presidents Association of Harvard Alumni. And he did all of these things, but nobody, even others who did it, were never recognized by Harvard. And they finally recognized somebody, and it was our man, Dan Fenn, classified.
Oh, that's a great way to end the story. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.